things, well, let me tell you, one of the things is that a lot of it comes with the answers would be different. So one of the things about these performance tasks is that it has multiple answers, and so we've talked about that. Like, think about, so when you guys took it, what are some of the impacts first that you think it'll have on kids, and what are the impacts you think it'll have on teachers, and then as parents, kind of experiencing just a little bit, what are some of the thoughts that you have?
My thought was, I wasn't prepared for this. And I don't have a calculator, I don't remember, I haven't been in class.
Right, what do I need? Yeah, what do I need to do it? Sure.
Yeah.
You know, one of the implications, I think, for children is that they really, really need to have a good handle on reading and understanding directions, because if you don't get the directions right, everything else is downhill. So it's really critical going in to clearly understand what you're being asked to do.
Yeah.
How many of you wanted to give up? Or like got to the first part and we're like, I'm done. Yeah. And we're not 11. You know what I mean? So imagine being 11.
Yeah.
And the impact that has on you. You know what I mean? Or like you have the adolescent development that you have going on. So we talk a lot about endurance, like teaching the kids how to continue to go. I got stuck on the area of the rectangular area of the triangle and trying to figure out twice the height, and it wasn't until Stephanie cheated and I got the answer. Then I got on it again, and then I was able to progress. But like if I would have got stuck there, how would I have been able to do any of the rest of it? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, she's teaching. So I mean, so there's lots of different implications for teachers. Think of the difference in amount of grading it's going to take versus a multiple choice test. I mean, and that's what we were doing for years with the map, was this drill and kill on multiple choice, how to select the best answer. It's all not where we're at anymore. So, I mean, really we're thinking about how do we schedule so that teachers have time to grade these, because there really isn't going to be an answer key, you know. So there's it's going to be really, they're going to have to work out the math with all the, if you have 100 kids and you have to work out the math for all of these kids.
Yeah.
It's quite something, you know.
Yeah.
But there is a limited number, right, of choices?
No.
So it could be any.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the second one, but.
You can't get, well, and then where does the step go wrong? Like we were talking, we did our diagrams just a little bit different for each other. So we had it all right until we got to the number of carrots and plants. And because one thing was wrong now, you know, so how do you grade that? Like, is it graded on the final answer? Is it graded on the steps? Is it graded? So all of this is stuff that we're really working with our teachers on. And so as we learn to perfect and to do it. But they say that they're real life situations, that they have multiple answers, multiple ways to get to the answers. In English language arts, Ms. Crawford can really speak to this because she just led professional development on it with her teachers. But what they talk a lot about is nonfiction and complex text. So the idea that like you're going to draw an inference not just from one article, but from 3 articles. So you have to read, or 3 different types of media. So it may be a blog, it may be a video, and it may be an article. And you have to do inference. Is there anything you want to add or share?
Well, I mean, just along with the text complexity, a big difference in the passages that they're currently using and the ones that they will be using is the ones that they're currently using, the meaning is, most of the time it's there in the words. But in these new texts, not only will they have to infer for the answers, but they're going to have to infer just to understand, comprehend the basic text. And there will be a lot of rigorous vocabulary. And so that's something that we're working on within our department, really authentically teaching context clues. Because gone are the days when you can just teach the meaning of set vocabulary words or certain content words. You have got to teach kids how to use context clues so that they can attack any word.
So for a while we were like, with the math test, we would teach like analyze, examine, you know, like all those words. But what they're talking about now is like academic vocabulary. So you'll see in this Designing the Bracelet one, they talk about surplus. They talk about, you know, like, so academic language that surrounds. So how do you, if they're asked for the surplus and you don't know what surplus means, how do you approach that?
So you're saying the map, this is what's going to be on the map test? Okay.
So what they will do is they'll take a section of it will be a computer adaptive skills test, and even that looks different. Like some of it is multiple choice, but some of it is like using this chart, drag your mouse and create a perimeter of an article, or here are 3 swimmers swimming, which one has the fastest rate of, so you have to do like, they have live videos and all sorts of things. So one of the things the district is really trying to work out is we have to have way more computers than we have. I mean, we have to get close to more of one-on-one, with computers or tablets, because it's just, we have to have that to be able to practice, to be able to do what they need to do. I've tried 3 times, and I can send the link to you guys of the Smarter Balance test. But I've tried 3 times because of software problems or other problems. I haven't got it to go. I mean, so I tried to, I got the link last spring. But the other thing is, it's all nonfiction text. But for the ELA, it's not just Com Arts. So in your kids' classes this year, in all of their electives, they'll be asked to do reading and writing, and all of their science and social studies reading and writing. 80% of the texts that are chosen for the English language arts are science or social studies texts. Mm-hmm. So you'll see a lot more of that push as we move forward. So we really are, I feel honestly really good about where we are as a building. I think the teachers are really exposed to it. I think they're practicing this year. So by next spring, when we take it for real, I think we'll have a year of perfecting our instruction, and then we'll be ready to really roll with it. But it is a lot of hard work. Your kids are going to come home and say, I'm writing in every class, or Ashley was sharing earlier today.
A kid came up to me the other day and he said, Ms. Crawford, why do we have to read in every single class? Who reads in social studies? So while that may sound negative to a degree, I like to share with you why it's exciting. It's exciting because in the past, reading has not always been the emphasis outside of communication arts. But it's very clear with our students that now it's an emphasis school-wide across all contents. So that's a huge step for us, because that means that we've changed the mentality of our students.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it will be different, though.
How has our elementary school, either the everyday math or whatever being currently used, prepared our kids to be where they need to be right now?
I don't know a lot about their curriculums. I don't know what they're doing. I know that.
I mean, because it sounds like in a lot of ways they're starting over. Because I couldn't help my son with the everyday math, and I'm good at math. That's my best subject. But I couldn't help him because
it's all a whole new.
There was a whole lot of different ways of looking at things, and this is the sort of thing that I couldn't help with.
I know that right now the elementary schools are going through math or rewriting their curriculums, and so I know that they're going through a process right now. To be honest, I really can't speak to what they're doing. I do know that we are working 6-12, so
but to get the kids where they're at now, it sounds like the previous math that they've been exposed to is actually in part responsible for the low levels that they've been achieving.
It seemed to me that the nice thing about everyday math was that it taught them to understand more instead of to memorize. And though I had the same problem, I didn't know what the right language was, and I was multiplying wrong, according to my kids. It seems like when you actually get to the applying part, they should understand it better.
So I will say that one of the things in working with the math department and being a social studies person, it wasn't until 2 years ago that I finally understood why you flip a fraction when you're dividing. You know what I mean? It wasn't until I actually was working with my math teachers that I understood. I just knew that's what you did. Do you know what I mean? That's what you do. Yeah. But I followed the directions, but I didn't understand the why behind the math. And what we're really trying to say is that to prepare the world that we're preparing our students for, we don't even know what it looks like. We're not preparing them to work on assembly lines. We're not preparing, because I don't know if any of you have seen 60 Minutes lately, but they just had this whole big thing about robotics and how even though the economy is bouncing back, the jobs aren't coming back because the jobs are now being done by robots. So instead of having 50 people that work for Amazon that go and pick up this item, pick up that item, put it in a box, they have robots that can maneuver warehouses that can get all the stuff together and put it together. So we are preparing kids to be robot designers. So they have to, and that's just that's not even your, your top kids. Your average kids are good. Those are the jobs, those are the fields. So the idea of what I was saying is really this whole, everyone has their own opinion about Common Core. I just think that it's just moving, it's forcing us to move in a better direction about rigorous material.
Of some of that math? Can I show you something real quick? Okay, so for example, you and I, we learned